Hello, hello, beautiful sensitive souls, and welcome back to Surviving to Thriving, where we address how to move from feeling like we're just always barely surviving and struggling in a world that is just too big, too fast, too loud, just overall too much, and getting to a place of calm and actually thriving as highly sensing people. And I do use that term sensing versus sensitive quite often because it just is received much, much better that way. So I will use that intermittently as well as sensitive. And I am your host and high sensory coach, Tammy Goen. As always, good to have you here. And I'm really hoping that I can help everyone out there who feels sensitive or extra sensitive, that they can feel amazing and embrace their trait and stop trying to hide or be small and really put out what they have to offer to the world, because it is truly an amazing gift and it needs to be shared. So glad to have you here. And this week I'm going to be talking about neurodiversity in general. And as I like to do, starting with some quotes. My ears work, my brain understands. Can't you see I'm a real person? And I thought that was just pretty poignant. Carol Kujek, she was writing about autism, which of course is a form of neurodiversity. And I liked that quote just because it is one of those things that once someone hears that a person has a difference of some kind, there's often an assumption about that person, or they're seen in a certain way versus just a person with a difference. So I really appreciated that quote. And another would be, it's not always possible or helpful to try to untangle which of a person's traits are autistic and which are caused by the trauma of being neurodiverse in a neurotypical world. And that was by Devin Price. And he was also obviously writing about autism, but I liked this quote because it's pertinent for any type of neurodiverse experience, right? We are in a neurotypical world, meaning that everything is kind of set up as if everyone was the same and without any type of difference in perception, because it's not the majority. It is set up for that majority, which does not necessarily work for all of those of us who are not typical. So that really can be, if you take in that quote and agree with it and that resonates, a sense of trauma, being able to just do whatever you want to do and not have a thought about it and be accepted is a very different experience from constantly running into why you're different, why that's not accepted. And that can really create that trauma response, which I think most of us don't probably necessarily think of. So I did appreciate that quote, whether you're talking about autism specifically or high sensitivity or whatever that looks like. And then I did have another quote today, the third one, the final one. I like that I have 10 things on the go all at once. I like that I'm always planning for the next thing. I like that I bring a high energy to my life, that I see it as a challenge. I like that my favorite thing to do on the flight home is to look at the airline route map to pick my next destination. And that is from Emily Pine. And I just really liked that as a reminder how important it is for us to appreciate all of our differences and to honor them and see them as benefits, as positive pieces of us, not just different or somehow lacking because they're different. But all of those things that make us us, it's important for us to celebrate. And it might be so different from someone else that no one else has that experience at all. It might be something that a fairly large number of people experience, but maybe you experience it more often. Whatever that looks like, being able to say, yeah, that's me, and it's amazing. So whatever those traits are that are so different, being able to embrace them is such a good goal. So I hope that through all of my episodes, through the readings that you do, whatever it is that where you're trying to increase your awareness about sensitivity or about any kind of neurodiversity or differences or inclusion, that you just get lots of information and tools to work with to be able to shift into that place of honoring just important and unique and amazing you are because of your differences. All right, so as a practitioner who understands and works with high sensitivity, I always feel that it's important for me to keep learning all about neurodiversity in general. And I realize that I need to expand my knowledge and understanding in order to help in the best way possible. And I can get, pigeonholed into just looking at sensitivity, but there's so much more going on. So high sensitivity is generally seen under the umbrella of neurodiversity, and people are talking about that these days. So HSPs process information differently, and our brains work differently. And there's a lot of talk about it, including, it's not the best word in this case, I guess, inclusion, making sure that everyone is seen equally and has all the same opportunities, et cetera. And there's more awareness of high sensitivity specifically, but there's so many other pieces of that, underneath that umbrella. There, like ADHD, as I mentioned, autism, dyslexia. There are a variety of different things out there that people are experiencing and processing in certain ways that would be under that umbrella that tend to be misunderstood, not supported, and not really heard. So I think it's important to be aware, even if, say, sensitivity is not really where you feel like you fit in, but you think you have ADHD and nothing else resonates. Well, that is your experience, and not everything is going to resonate for you. Not everything's going to work for you. But again, the average of whatever someone is focusing on is going to be what you're finding the most. So I know for me, it's important to recognize, even within the scope of sensitivity, but even outside of that, what others might be experiencing. It's important for me to recognize that I have my own biases, and what I do to provide for everyone is based on what I would want in these situations from my perspective. And so there has to be a lot of others out there that are looking for things that I might not be offering. And so if I can increase that realm of options and adhere to the needs of those that are different, then I'm helping more and more people that way. So that is my goal. And so that's why I wanted to talk about that a little bit, today. And it's super important, whatever the differences are, to realize and remember that differences in processing or any other things about our personalities does not mean lacking or being wrong, being abnormal, somehow needing to change. And it's also necessary to recognize that with those differences come the benefits and the bonuses, the things that not only help the neurodivergent self, the sensitive self, the ADHD self, whatever that is, but all of humanity. We have so much to offer. Every single person has so much to offer if we're given the best and the opportunity, the best way to do that. So one thing that we can be aware of, I can be aware of, as we're interacting with or helping others in a professional capacity in particular, is that what we see, as I was just mentioning, and do that we might assume is what everyone needs might not be just right for others. So some things that seem really obvious to us might not be considered at all by others. And some things that help us or soothe us might actually trigger or annoy or otherwise bother those with a little bit different processing styles or life experiences. And trauma can fit into this, regardless of what those processing styles are. That is a factor that needs to be brought in. I've been aware of that in terms of doing meditations and having eyes open or closed. There are different things that work for certain people and not for others, but I definitely need to expand my view on that. So hopefully I can get some help from you at some point. If you have any thoughts on this, I would love to hear from you about. So for a lot of people, closing our eyes, as I was just talking about, during, let's say, a meditation or deep breathing exercise, or if we just tune in order to tune out the immediate environment, that's very helpful in shifting to a calmer state. But for some, perhaps with that trauma background or just different way of perceiving things, that can be really unsettling or even scary, maybe even trigger some kind of an escape response or a safety mechanism that's not really helpful. And to some, the sound of a bell chiming at the end of a guided meditation or a time of journaling, something like that, is very subtle and nice and helps to shift that state of consciousness. And for others, that sound can be really jolting or discordant, or for whatever reason, basically discount or remove the benefits of what they just did, because it's just not what suits them. Some people are quite visual and can easily imagine and create internal visual landscapes, or identify colors or images or parts of their bodies or their sensations, like through a body scan, for example, but not so much for others. If we ask someone to visualize something and they're just not visual, they don't readily bring up an image like we would do if we are visual. And that can be really frustrating, and even leading to a feeling of being less than or wrong, or someone just not resonating with you at all because you're presenting something that they just can't do. And if they feel wrong or bad about that, they're not likely to want to do that at all in the future. So it's easy to maintain these biases, as I mentioned, because we live within them. We operate according to what we think and believe and know, and it can be challenging to consider something different than we experience. And as sensitives, we tend to have this ability to put ourselves in others' shoes more easily than average. But we still have to realize that when we do that, we're putting ourselves in someone else's shoes as if we were them, and that's how we would respond. So it might be completely different. It's good that we can do that, but we need to realize that that still has a certain lens we're looking through. So we put ourselves in someone else's place, and we are open to what that might be, but we still have those biases that say, oh, well, if I was in that situation, this would happen and this is what I would want. But we don't know that unless we check it out somehow. So whatever that is that allows us to be compassionate and think out of the box and recognize what other people might need still has that lens that comes from our own perception. So we don't necessarily have that clear idea. So we can talk about different ways that we can be more aware and to help in that, whether we're in a helping situation like me as a coach, or working with someone for calming their nervous system and building tools, or whether you're being the best friend that you can be, or partner. These are some ideas that can help to shift awareness, to bring everyone else into the conversation and find out what people really need. So one thing is to check our language. So often we use metaphors or jokes, or we might allude to something that we assume that everyone knows. And it might not work for some. It might not make any sense. It might be a trigger. It might just be kind of off. There are a lot of cultural cliches that might be completely lost on some of those that aren't within whatever that group is. Being clear and direct helps us get our message across with less opportunity for confusion. And it might seem maybe less colorful that way, but we can add to things in a different way, rather than using the metaphors or just assuming that, oh, if I use this term, everyone's going to know what that means, and realizing that that might not be the case. We can pay attention to the surrounding environment. So if you're seeing a client, or if you're hanging out with a friend, or whatever that looks like, noticing if you're in your element, if you're feeling totally comfortable, be aware of what that situation might be for someone else. Are the sounds or the lighting or activity level mild enough, or just right to not offend or disturb somebody else? And the best way, of course, is to ask and say, what is this like for you? But just be aware that that might be different. When you're setting it all up, it's perfect. Oh, this is really great. Anyone would like this, right? Not so. So being able to have that awareness that it might not work for somebody else. We can offer different ways of connecting and communicating with us. So texting works for some, emails work for some, phone calls, video chats, even written correspondence. These all serve a purpose, and they're all good in certain situations. but they're not necessarily appreciated well or navigated equally by everyone. So finding out what works best for someone and offering that to them. And for example, I do discovery calls when people are interested in working with me, and I set it up as a Zoom call, but if they would prefer to have a phone call, that is an option. We can sometimes email back and forth a few times to take out some of, the preliminary stuff, so that when we do connect either by phone or online, it's not as long if that's something that people aren't comfortable with, especially at the beginning. So making those adjustments. And it's easy to assume these days that everyone texts. And I've had this come up myself, where I assume, oh, someone contacted me by leaving a voicemail, and then I just respond quickly because I don't have all that much time with a text, and then I don't hear. So then I check in again by phone, and then I find out they don't text. They just don't. So they didn't receive my reply by text. They were still waiting for me to call. So being aware that everyone is just not comfortable with everything and finding out what works. And so following up on that basically is not assuming anything. So there's that adage, right? To assume makes what out of you and me. And it can be really true, because we assume, oh, everyone texts, or if I use this word, everyone knows what that means, or what that reference is, or whatever the situation. And it's just not true. And if we think about it from our perspective, if someone says something and we don't understand it, it makes sense that, oh, of course, not everyone's the same. But when we come from our own heads and our own perception, it's easy to forget that. So a really simple example is when people make comments or jokes based upon, say, a TV series. I am completely out of the loop. I don't watch TV at all. I have no frame of reference for people's comments for the most part, if it's referencing some kind of a series, sometimes even movies, because I don't even watch movies all that often. I like them, but I just fill my time with so many other things. I don't even see that many. So when people make references to these, I'm clueless. I just don't have any idea. But they're probably assuming, well, everyone knows that, right? Because everyone's seen that show or everyone's seen that movie. Nope. I have that, to prove otherwise, because we just can't make those assumptions. So being aware, we still don't know what the reality is. So my final, idea to provide you is just that piece. Ask. So if you don't want to assume, you need to know what the person is actually experiencing. And the only way to know that is to have their experience shared by asking and having them tell you. And it might seem simplistic or unnecessary, or maybe you're thinking, well, if I ask that, they're going to think I'm stupid, because how would I not know? But they're going to probably be really relieved, pleased, excited that you thought to even ask them in the first place, because probably no one does. So if you can say, hey, how's the environment for you right now? Or, what's your preferred way of me connecting with you? Is texting okay? Would you prefer something else? Or whatever the situation is, you use a word. Hey, was that clear to you? Does that make sense? Asking, so that we can stop guessing, and we can even help ourselves learn what the different experiences are. For example, I didn't even realize when I first started doing guided meditations for others, that some people with a trauma background are, and could be others, maybe on the autism spectrum, maybe whatever that might be, sometimes closing eyes to have that engagement, going within, calming everything down, that works really well for some, and it can be really triggering and feel very unsafe or weird for others. And I had no idea until a friend of mine just happened to mention, yeah, I never close my eyes because it brings up this fear response. Like, I'm not safe because I close my eyes and I don't know what's going on. That was complete news to me. And I had just never thought about that, because it's not true for me. And it feels so centering and calming to close my eyes. So being, increasing that awareness, being aware of the potentials is so powerful. But if we're not directly asking frequently, we're not going to know that. We're not going to pick up on it. So it's really important for us as helpful, compassionate humans to put ourselves in other shoes. It's very important for especially accommodating folks in that neurodiverse arena. And it even within, if you're highly sensing and you're working with someone or talking with someone who's highly sensing, it's still important to not assume that person has the exact same experience as you. You can say, oh yeah, my experience, et cetera, et cetera. Does that resonate with you, or have you had that experience? Just asking that little follow-up question, because it might be like, oh yeah, I'm totally there, I understand. And they also might say, that's a little bit different for me. And then you get to know more, understand that person that much better, because you took that extra step to not assume and to increase your awareness. And it'd be awesome, of course, if everyone could be 100% authentic in their uniqueness and be accepted in the world, because all of those differences are amazing, and that's what keeps the world functioning. So just wanted to just kind of start this dialogue about neurodiversity, kind of thinking about it again. What does that mean? Yes, as a highly sensing person, we can be under that umbrella, neurodiversity, but what else? It's totally possible for someone who's highly sensing to also be on the autism spectrum, to also be ADHD or have dyslexia, or sometimes there can be pieces of, say, sensory processing disorder can fit in with something else. It's not exclusive. There's so many different possibilities of the way people perceive life. So just having that awareness is so important. So if you find yourself wanting a little bit of guidance and accepting yourself as a highly sensing person, or understanding the differences between that and maybe ADHD or some other things, or just being your unique self is feeling like a struggle, please do reach out. I'm here for you. Would love to connect. And I would also really like, this is a personal request for me, if you would like to reach out to me and let me know what types of things work for you for meditation, breath work, guided imagery, or any tools that maybe you haven't heard me providing or that are new to you, that help you to be mindful, to calm your nervous system, and that work within whatever that field of reference is for you, whether it's sensitivity or autism, ADHD, whatever that looks like for you. I would really like to know what things are important. For example, when you do a meditation, is it good to be reminded you don't have to close your eyes? You can just gaze off and find a place to focus on. Making sure, of course, the environment, using different words instead of all of the metaphors, or providing, say, I know it could be helpful when you're doing a grounding exercise to have lots of different explanations of how to do that. I would love to know what works best for you specifically, and what it is that your lens looks like, whether that's sensitivity or ADHD or whatever it is, whatever type of neurodiversity you experience. I would just like to have that piece, so that when I do provide these tools for people, meditation and imagery and breathing exercises, whatever that is, I can be sure to incorporate all of the adjustments and differences that will make it most accessible to everyone across the board. So I would be very, very grateful if any of you would just feel free to reach out and let me know, oh yeah, when I meditate, I found that this helps me the most. And I see myself as, sensitive and on the autism spectrum, or sensitive and, with some elements of ADHD or whatever that looks like, letting me know, so that I can fine tune my offerings to everyone. So thank you as always for being here. And I'm always open to your ideas, thoughts that you might have, in this case, on neurodiversity in general, and what it's like to be under that umbrella in a world that's focused on neurotypical folks. And I hope I will see you again next time, and have an amazing, wonderful week.